Well, welcome back to Gardener's Cottage here in Blakeney on an absolutely gorgeous blue sky Friday morning, one of our first turnovers where you really feel like you're in summer, and the garden is really coming to life at this time of year, and particularly the roses. Just look at this rambling rector that's doing its thing through this hedge on the eastern side of the cottage. Fills this little driveway in front of the house with scent. It's absolutely heady here. I wish you could smell it. Picks up where the Philadelphus, which is just behind it, that green mass, flowered the month before. You can just see the end of the buds on that, but the scent off that massive flower with this yellow rose opposite it on the house flowering away. And we've got lots to show you here in the garden this afternoon. This Gertrude Jekyll standard rose in the front of the house. Beautiful quartered, old-fashioned, heavily scented. Flowers periodically over summer, plenty of bud to come on over that. Has its big first flush usually towards the end of May, but this year it was later into June, and still plenty of bud coming on that. Should be lovely over the next few weeks. Yellow loosestrife flowering nicely along the front of the drive. Vimerana, not worried about it whatsoever, thank goodness. Got some lovely valerian coming up that we've seeded in here. It's also on the opposite side of the house with pink geraniums. Hollyhocks starting to come up now, but this valerian along the base just peppering the underside of this planting with some colour at this time of year. Let's make our way around into the back of the garden and show you some of the roses we've got flowering in that area. A little seating area on the back of the house in the south-facing gravel area just by the back of the kitchen. It's looking very nice this time of year. The plantings in the gravel are left to fill in quite naturalistically. There's no border that side of the little retaining wall, but it's just seeded itself with geranium, valerian, all sorts of things in there coming up. And the rose at the back there was planted into the little border with more yellow loosestrife, and the rose on the back wall, which flowers throughout the summer, is climbing iceberg. The white montana's almost finished. Don't know whether you made out the little blue tit just making its way into a crevice in that wall where it's nesting. That's part of the wonder of this garden. For most of the time it's pretty quiet here, and the wildlife really enjoys it. We got more roses planted along the base of this wall. This little multi-flowered short rambler never gets much taller than that, which is very nice, seeming we don't want to lose too much of this gravel. Got some lovely catmint, and look, first of the hollyhocks just starting to come out in this real little sun trap we've got here. Beautiful pale powder pastely pink, tall spires growing through the gravel here. Got agapanthus budding up to the side of it, and just to the other side as well. We've repeated the planting, so in a couple of weeks time those agapanthus are going to be popping. I think they're the dark blue. And then in front of the house here, lavenders, Californian poppies. Getting a little shady back here. I may have to think about moving this agapanthus because it's a beautiful big ball flowered variety down there, which was in full sun before the fig tree grew to its current size. And then further along in front of the garden kitchen entrance, we've got these two lovely borders full at this time of year of these yellow spires. More agapanthus coming up in pots here, and that is Crocosmia lucifer. Beautiful upright lime green leaves at this time of year, which in a couple of weeks will be followed by those bright orange red spears of flowers. The roses here starting to grow away. We planted new roses in this garden last season. This is one of them. A little shady for it down here, but we're hoping with plenty of watering this will get away and fill. There was an old rose here going back to the early 2000s that survived on this downpipe even during the hottest and driest of summers, and that does tend to be a problem most years. This garden gets terribly droughty, but not this year. We're still looking for July extremely lush and green with plenty of vigorous growth Another of the new roses planted in here. These are from David Austin. Can't find the label on this one, so I'm a little at a loss as to what the flower is. I'll have to dig around a little bit later, see if we can find that one. There's a couple more roses planted in down here. They're starting to get away now, but not too much flower on them yet. This border does tend to get a little shady, but we've got bud coming on those, which for young roses the foliage is looking very nice. Giant alliums which flowered for all too brief a period, middle of May, now setting beautiful seed heads, and the buddleias budding up nicely. This is actually an albertine coming through here with the red foliage. Again, struggling for light. It's really been overgrown by the buddleia, which we should keep a lot shorter than that if we wanted the albertine to really give us a flush of flower, because it should be doing that right now, and it's obviously not too happy. This climbing rose making its way up through this old palm tree right the way up to the top almost now, and I'm sure it'll be flowering on the southern sunnier side far better than it is down here. But this is a Bobby James, very similar climbing rose in its habit and vigour to Rambling Rector, but a slightly larger flower, doing very well and giving us a real show right high up where it's quite unexpected. And another vigorous climbing rose making its way right the way up to the top of this. I think it's a viburnum in the very back of this planting between us and the white cottage, and that's overhanging beautifully up to about 15-16 feet from the ground planting, which is there just at the base. You can see it going up, and then the new border of roses. Again, been a good year for us having planted these last season, not having to water too much. There's a little bit of dieback on these, but they're starting to get away, and I'm hoping by the end of the season these will have grown. I have to keep some of the canopy back from them to give them a bit of light earlier in the day, but by this time in the afternoon they're getting some full sunlight, so should do very, very well. So overall I'm very pleased with the garden here. Nice little sunny retreat for guests to come and stay and use while they're with us at Blakeney, and the house for this time of year looking very nice, and it is so nice to be welcoming guests back here after the break with the restrictions of 2020.